Hi everyone, I'm Jody, the designer behind Lambent Crochet, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this adorable, super chunky moss stitch beanie. Now we're going to be doing the child size small. If you would like to make any other sizes, please visit my blog, Etsy, or Ravelry store. So to make this beanie, you're going to be needing some category 6 super bulky weight yarn. I used 2 colors and about 45 yards of each color to make the child size small. You're going to be pairing the yarn with a 10mm crochet hook. You're going to need a darning needle, but be sure that your opening of your needle is large enough to accommodate the thickness of the yarn. You're also going to need a pair of scissors, and if you like, you can also add a pom-pom. Okay, first begin by grabbing your accent color. So this is the color you're going to want to use for your brim, and make a slip knot. Insert your hook and now chain up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So here is what your chain of 6 looks like. And now find the second chain from the hook. Here's 1 and 2. Now let's make a slip stitch. So yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through the loop on your hook. Continue to make a slip stitch in each one of the chains down the row, but be sure not to make your stitches too tight. It is a little bit easy to do that when working the slip stitch, so just wiggle your hook up slightly and that will really make a difference in your tension. Now when you reach the end of the row, chain 1 and turn. Okay, so I'm just going to show you where we're going to be working our stitches for the next row and the remaining rows of the brim. Now we're going to be working in the back loop only. Now normally you go under both loops of your V. So if you can just see where I'm placing my darning needle right here, I'm going under the 2 loops of the top of the stitch. But when working in the back loop, you're going to only work into the loop that's furthest away from you. So this is the back loop right here. The one closest to the front loop, and this here is the back loop. So I'm just going to grab my crochet hook and show you where to insert. So you're going to be going in between the 2 loops of the V at the top of your stitch. Push your hook through and then make a slip stitch. So grab the yarn, pull up a loop, and pull through the loop on your hook. And just continue to do that down the row, working in the back loop only. Now this will give a beautiful ribbing effect. It has a lot of stretch, holds its shape well, and also resembles the look of being knitted. So once you made 5 slip stitches back loop only, chain 1 and turn your work. And now just repeat that row until you have a total of 36 rows made. So every row is going to have a total of 5 slip stitch back loop only. And at the end of every row, you chain 1 and turn. Now remember that the chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and you're going to be working in the same stitch as the chain 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and zip through all of these rows, and I'm going to meet you back here when I have them all finished to show you how we're going to join both ends of our brim and begin the body of the beanie. So this is what your brim should be looking like about 1/3 into it. It has a beautiful stretch and it holds its shape well. If you can see, the size of the ribbing is all pretty unified. This is what you're going to be going for. So just double check your work to make sure that everything's nice and even and holding its shape well. Okay, once you've completed your 36 rows, lay your brim down flat with the last row worked facing up, and then fold the very first row up and over on top of the last row worked. Now we're going to be seaming together with a slip stitch in the back loop only. So we're going to first insert our hook into the very first stitch of the very first row. So you're going to be working on the bottom side of the stitches and then go directly into the back loop of the last row worked and make your slip stitch. Repeat this in each one of the stitches along both the first and last row worked until your brim is nicely seamed together. So this now turns into the wrong side. So flip your brim inside out, and now you can see that your seam is practically invisible. Everything looks so clean, neat, and tidy with this beautiful ribbing. Now go ahead and chain 1 because we're going to continue working along the very top edge of our brim. So we're going to be making 1 single crochet for every row we made. So we're going to be spacing out 36 single crochets evenly around the top edge of the brim. So I like to work in between the ridges. So let's go ahead and make our first single crochet there. And now see the ridges and that space in between. This is where we're going to be working our 2 single crochets. Now be sure you space them evenly and don't make them into the same rows, because you're not doing 2 single crochets in the same stitch, but doing 2 separate single crochets in between the 2 ridges. Okay, so go ahead and continue to make your single crochets all the way along the top edge of the brim, but I want you to stop before making your last one because we're going to be doing a color change so we can have a smooth transition to work the main color for the body of the beanie. Okay, so I'm about to make my very last stitch. Now we're going to begin working the single crochet as we normally would. But once you yarn over and pull up your loop, instead of completing the single crochet with the accent color, you're going to grab your main color and loop it over your hook and pull that through the 2 loops on your hook. Be sure you leave a generous tail of about 4 to 6 inches so you can easily hide it along the row of stitches or weave it in. Now join to the very first stitch made, not the chain 1, with a slip stitch. And then you can just give those little ends a tug, the tails a tug, to tighten it up and secure your color change. Give your brim color yarn a snip, so cut the accent yarn, leaving a long enough tail to weave in. And just push that aside. And now we're going to continue working the rest of our beanie in the main color. Okay, so this is going to be the very first row of the moss stitch. Now the moss stitch is super easy to do and it works up really quick. So begin by doing a chain 1 and then make a single crochet in the same stitch because the chain 1 is not going to count as our stitch. And now after making your single crochet, make a chain 1. Now skip the next stitch and make a single crochet in the next stitch. Now chain 1 and you skip the next and make a single crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip 1, make a single crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip 1, make a single crochet in the next, and repeat this all the way around. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump to the very end of this round because I want to show you how we're going to be starting round 2 and the remaining rounds of this beanie. It's a little bit different than your standard joining method. So I'm just going to jump ahead quickly and I'll meet you back here in a minute. Okay, now I've made my very last single crochet chain 1 and I'm locating the very first stitch made and I'm going to be making a slip stitch. And now I'm going to be making another slip stitch. Now I'm going to be working in the chain 1 space. So just work around that and make a slip stitch. This will make a nice smooth transition when working in the round with the moss stitch. Now chain 1 and work a single crochet in the same chain 1 space. Chain 1 and now work your first stitch in the chain 1 space. So this is going to go super quick because you're just going to be working in the chain 1 spaces from now on. So we're going to insert our hook into the chain 1 space, make a single crochet, chain 1, then in the next chain 1 space, make a single crochet, chain 1, in the next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, and just continue to do this all the way around. So here we are, we came up to how we joined. So we're going to locate the very first stitch that we made, not the chain 1. Make a slip stitch and then into the next chain 1 space, make another slip stitch. And then to begin round 3, we chain 1, single crochet in the same chain 1 space, then chain 1, locate the next chain 1 space, make a single crochet, and chain 1. Locate the next chain 1 space, make a single crochet, and chain 1. And continue to do so all the way around for a total of 10 rounds. So I'm going to go ahead and zip through the next little bit till I have a total of 10 rounds made, and then I'm going to meet you back here to show you how we're going to start our 2 rounds of decreases. Okay, now making our first round of decreases, join as you normally would with every row. Now working in the chain 1 space, make a single crochet, then locate the next chain 1 space and make another single crochet. So all you're doing is single crocheting in every chain 1 space without making that extra chain 1 that we did for the other rows. So you're going to have the same number of stitches, but you're not going to have the chain 1 in between each single crochet. So it's going to start to tighten up the very top of our beanie. So just go ahead and make a single crochet in every chain 1 space. Then once you reach the end of this round, just join to the very first stitch with a slip stitch. And then I'll meet you back to show you how we're going to make our second round of the decreases. Okay, so I'm chaining 1 to begin my next round, and now this is going to be a round of decreases. So it's 2 single crochets together. So insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, locate the next stitch, insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Now repeat this stitch all the way around your beanie, and it's going to reduce your stitches by half. So it's really going to nicely tighten up top of our beanie, giving it a nice fitted look and then making it really easy to sew up our opening at the end. So just go ahead and complete the 2 single crochets together. So the decrease round, the very last round of our decreases, and join to the very first stitch with a slip stitch. And then we're going to be tying off and leaving a long tail for sewing. So I'm just going to quickly jump ahead here and I'll meet you back when we're ready to close up the top of our beanie. Okay, so I've just joined to the first stitch with a slip stitch, and this is what the top of my beanie looks like. There's a little circle opening here. So I'm going to get my scissors and snip my yarn, leaving a fairly long tail, about 8 inches, to make it really easy to work with when sewing up that opening. So snip here, and now we're going to tie off by pulling that tail through. Now grab your darning needle, and the easiest way to thread, I find, is by taking the tip of the tail and folding it in half, pinching it together, and just pushing it through the opening of your darning needle. And now just weave that darning needle in between your stitches all the way around through each stitch so you can easily tighten up this opening when you pull on the tail. And now all that's left to do is weave in the ends. Okay, so here's what our finished beanie looks like. Feel free to add a pom-pom if you like. This beanie makes a great gift. It's so warm, thick, and squishy. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you loved this tutorial.